am so excited for this one because I think so many people have asked for a video like this, and I figure it's as good a time as any, right? And it's all around foul selection. That's right. We are going to get into a little bit more of the detail of what makes a physical foul, and I've got about 15 different clips where we can start to analyze. Some of these clips have multiple fouls, some of them have just, are short and just have a single one, but they will give you an opportunity to kind of look at, and we can kind of talk through and look at these with a little bit more detail, based on our considerations and based on how we apply the laws of the game. So I don't want to do anything else. Let's jump right into it. First, I want to go through and actually look at what the laws say, right? So in Law 12.1, it starts to indicate what are direct free kick offenses, and that's usually an offense where there's some sort of physical contact against an opponent. So you'll see here the ones that are listed, right, are charges, jumps at, kicks or attempts to kick, pushes, strikes or attempts to strike, including a headbutt, tackles or challenges, and trips or attempts to trip. Now, you go on further, right? And obviously it starts to tell us, careless, reckless, excessive force, lack of attention or consideration when making a challenge, or acts without precaution. Reckless, when a player acts with the disregard to the danger to or consequences for an opponent and must be cautioned. Or excessive force, when a player exceeds the necessary use of force and or endangers the safety of an opponent and must be sent off and shown the red card. So careless, reckless, excessive force. And then as you go through with excessive force, excessive force and or brutality, depending on your situation, right? So now we have a direct free kick on any of these. There is also another set, right, where handball offenses are going to be direct free kicks. Holding an opponent is also going to be a direct free kick. Impeding an opponent with contact is also going to be a direct free kick. Bites, spits someone on the team lists or at a match official. Or you throw an object at the ball, an opponent, the match official, or makes contact with the ball with held object, right? So we're really covering all of the spectrum of what makes a foul a foul. Now, I don't have clips for all of these. Obviously, one of my more popular clips around would be sort of that the blue player throwing the ball in, and the throw in is at the white player who had just been delaying and so forth. We all know that, I would hope, at this point, but I don't want to necessarily go into those ones because those I think are actually very clear, and we just need to learn the proper application of the law and the man management to it and everything like that. Now, let's just jump into the videos themselves, and we can go through and we can look at what we see, where, and why. So like I said, I have a lot of these different ones here where there's going to be all sorts of different fouls that come through. Let's start with this one. This one's a bit of a longer one, and it's going to kind of show an entire match kind of in context here, and we'll have a look. so let's zoom back out here, right? And now some of these aren't fouls. This is just sort of a heavily physical game, right? In my opinion, where we have differing levels of force and expectation based on what is a foul. Kind of like we talked about in the last video, where there's a range, and that range is either widened or tightened based on the level, the skill level, and so forth. So here we'll see the first one come through, and we see a clear pullback on the shirt. Now, the referee doesn't call it because honestly, it's a fleeting hold. It doesn't really affect the play. Probably there's probably a good advantage call here. So we're good to keep going here. All right, so now I'll mute this so we don't get the audio. This one here, I'm going to say is probably more of a collision. They're both going for the ball. Both end up on their feet, that's fine. This one here is going to be, we'll see a challenge come right through the back, knee to the back of the knee. Probably eligible for kind of reckless here based on the height of the contact. But he thinks he's going through the legs to get to the ball. He's really going through the back of the leg of that player, and which brings him down. Which is why the referee blows the whistle for a foul here. Now here we have, let's see here. Trip, easy enough to call. A little bit of a confrontation over here. Always some pushing and shoving in here, obviously. And we have another trip from behind, very similar to the first one. Now here, this one is a little interesting, right? So he plays the ball, and then the attacker kind of grabs around, holds around, and pulls him as he's going to ground. Is there a foul there? Yeah, probably, but it depends on kind of what we're doing there. So now, and then we have this one right here. This one echoes to me that kind of first kind of challenge from behind where ball's gone. He's just taking him out. Nothing there, right? So a number of fouls in this clip that I think are really valuable to see, especially in a kind of a heated kind of match scenario, right? So now let's look at this one, because this one is maybe a little bit different. All right. So it's kind of shorter, but you'll see he's stepping across and he's knocking him off balance, and then he kind of leans back and then comes back through with the shoulder, and then that secondary motion of the arm coming up, right? Unfortunately takes out the AR in the same moment here, but you can see right there, right? He kind of, they're arm fighting here, which is fine. I don't have any issue with that. But when it starts to, when there's no such thing as finishing the play, right? And that's exactly what he does here. So for me, I do have that foul. I do have it kind of where he brings that arm up, and that would be that push. You could even just say challenge or tackle or something like that as well. So both are there. All right, now this one is a training session, and the coach is going to intervene right away. So I'm just going to pause. It's just a real quick one here.
Careful! Freeze!
All right, so we see it here. Obviously, the coach intervenes real quick, but you see how he's coming through. He's stepping, lunging. He's got that foot flat. He's going to go over the ball. He's getting the ball first. And that, for me, is not always going to be an indicator that this is a fair tackle, right? The manner of the tackle is also going to matter. So in this challenge, he's coming through. You see the foot has gone in flat like this. He's going at, and it's going over the ball. And you'll notice that he's got one leg between his leg. If he continues at pace, he's going to basically scissor that standing leg. And now we have a very different consideration as to whether or not we're looking at sort of a tackle that meets not only excessive force, but hitting that brutality element as well. Okay? Come here. Now, this one is going to be one of the clearest pushes you'll see. From behind in the penalty area, just the two-hand shove. Obviously, that's pretty clear, right? It's the pushes that are more side by side, where we see the arm come up and then that arm kind of straighten out and push off. Those are the ones that get a little bit more deceptive. And unfortunately, I just couldn't find the best clip in the world for that one. But we might see something similar to it. Okay. So here we can see now this to me is a very clear impact in the hold, right? The hold is clearly outside. It's outside, it's outside. And he goes down well outside the area. I don't think he's inside the area just yet, so we don't have a PK. It's not a hold going into the penalty area. However, this is the hold that we kind of discussed in the first part where it's not affecting him yet. Now here it clearly is. He's already going down outside the penalty area, and I think this referee does a fantastic job in noting the correct placement for where this goes. So, and then there's some afters and so forth, pushing, shoving, so forth, right? Now, let's have a look at this one. All right, so one is White pushing. Is White using that arm? Is the arm coming up, and is there that secondary motion where he's pushing off? On Black here, not really. He's just kind of bracing him, just kind of keeping his distance, protecting his space, right? But then Black obviously comes around, grabs. He's very close to the neck, which I don't really like, but that is kind of how he's going down. And that's where obviously this referee is deemed running right in without a problem and showing that yellow. All right, you're gonna see, for this one, you're looking more at, is White bringing that arm up and then brace and then shoving off, or are we creating a bigger kind of contact there, right? And obviously the foul is on Black here for the grab around the shoulder, upper shoulder, neck area. I don't blame the referee for going with the caution on this one. Any more obvious though, it would probably have to rise to a send off just for the contact around that neck and head area starts to bring it up to that. All right, let's have a look here.
Breaks it.
Now, this one, a little interesting. Obviously, he's a talented player. He's trying to keep possession. Now, do we have... We almost kind of... I think we do have a foul here. I just think the way he falls, it just makes it look so unnatural that's why the referee doesn't blow the whistle here. But we see 6, the lighter blue 6 there is definitely using that arm and bringing it out. We see that arm extend out. And at the same time, if you look at lower, you see 6, the darker jersey, steps in front trying to hold it, and then he delivers that shot on the back. So I think there's clearly I would call this because I do see, a lot of different, there's contact on the leg right there as he's trying to come through and challenge for that ball. But then we also see that arm kind of come through and push a little bit as well. Again, lower levels, you're going to have a little bit less, or excuse me, you're going to have a little bit more tolerance for, especially skill level and so forth, where are they really using their arm to push, or are they just trying to kind of control their body in sort of an alternative way? It's a weird way of putting it, but sometimes the intention isn't necessarily to be committing the foul and to be pushing, but to that their body is just sort of uncoordinated, right? It's a bit of a toss up here. For me, at this level, I do I I struggle with this one when I saw it live because it does look so weird how he falls, but he's stepping forward between he's kind of doing that big exaggerated step with that right foot, and then he's stepping through, and I don't see him really simulating here outside of the fact that he's being pushed and pulled, and then kind of that last little lunge forward where he's stepping down and then kind of almost jumping forward. I think that's kind of what cons the referee a little bit into thinking it's more simulation than not. Um, but for me, I do see more of a foul there than not. All right. This one is the highlight reel of all just bad tackles, but we can watch through it. So this one actually right here is good because you'll see the clear challenge, and then you'll see this player is going to try to kick. His red teammate right here is going to kick through and try and kick. It looks like kicking at, right? Now, this is a charge where there's no chance for going for the ball here. And the music's annoying, so that's why I'm just going to leave it off. Obviously, that one's over the ball. Here, karate kick. Now, this is a good one because I've done a piece of content on this other one here, right? And so goalkeeper's coming through. He touches that ball away, and then he gets kicked and goes down, right? It's a clear foul. This is one of those moments, though, where the kick is obviously going for the ball, but the attacker just nudges it out of the way, and now we have something else happening. It's a foul, yes, but do we have a caution because of the force? Do we have a send-off, right? I don't think it's dog so for obvious reasons because he's going away from goal and he's well away, and the goalkeeper's the one making that challenge. But we do have it's asking the question of where is that line of force in your games, and this is going to be a big determinant of that, right? So go to the next one. Similar. This one is similar to the goalkeeper one, except there's more or less play to the ball in any sort of capacity, and he just sort of ends up taking him out. It's a red for dog, so it's a red for excessive force, brutality. I mean, it's just a red. And take your pick, write it up however you want. But now this one is one of those where you're seeing the ball get played, but it's almost like he wins the ball by accident, right? And these are, it's just you see misses with that first leg. He only wins the ball because his back leg is going down and into the challenge. and he ends up landing right on top of the ball, and the other player goes flying. So again, we have a tackle, we have a challenge. We're getting the ball, but not really. This is one of those oops, I tackled the player and I accidentally got the ball. And again, at lower levels where skill levels are a little bit less, you'll see this quite frequently. There's a trip, and then a kick. Pushing, pulling, all that. Now, this is an interesting one because he clearly comes in, right? He's just using his body here. The arm comes up, but it's really not a push or anything like that. And then he obviously starts, the player in yellow then starts grabbing a hold and pulling him with him and so forth. Now, here we go. A nice little bite, and then you're going to see a headbutt there too. So, again, we can't control everything. White doesn't commit a foul. Yellow certainly does, but then we have to end up sending off white for the bite, the headbutt, and again, take your pick as to which one you want to go ahead. Always include everything in your report. So, let's have it keep going here. So we have, again, that same kind of scissor challenge that we saw previous, except this is more in-game, right? So if we bring it back, right, he's late. There's no way he's getting to the ball, and he just scissors through his legs. Now, hold on. Let's see this. This is another one of those... Is he going for the ball? But he makes a ton of contact on the player. I would say this is a challenge. It's a foul, and quite rightly, the linesman flags for that. Now, again, another very hard tackle where, again, he's going into the player first, and then any contact on the ball is just sort of coincidental. So very simple, very easy to call, especially, in these moments, right? Let's go to the next one. We'll see it here. Now, in these specific scenarios where there's clearly an offense that occurs here by the goalkeeper who comes out. He's the last man, right? Takes out the attacker, but 13 comes running in, touches it in, right? It's always better to wait and see here. When we have the whistle up to our mouth, give yourself a solid 3-second pause. Count that out, especially in the penalty area, giving yourself especially if it's an attacking opportunity. So as we see the challenge here, it is a legitimate tackle for the ball. So it's not a dog-so send-off scenario, but we are seeing 13 come in, touch the ball in. So now we don't have any sanction here for the goalkeeper because we're allowed to play advantage and we are good to go. Award the goal. Keep it simple. We don't have to overthink this one. Something similar is going to happen.
Your thoughts here? Falling all over the place. Adriana Leon is as well. She gets a touch and she's got a brace. Timed perfectly by Leon, and here she just gets a little touch before getting collided into by Murphy. This is brave. You have to know that the contact is coming.
So goalkeeper's coming out.
And yet, Leon gets a touch on it, puts it away.
Puts it into the net here.
Putting her team up 2 goals now. That is an excellent finish from a player coming in.
All right, this one's going to be very similar to the last one where we see the player coming through. You'll see the goalkeeper coming outside of the penalty area, jumps, and I feel bad for this goalkeeper. I mean, I think she's just doing her best to kind of maybe make herself big and maybe disrupt the shot and so forth. But realistically is going to make up some pretty heavy contact between the defender and the attacker here. And the attacker takes the brunt of it, in my opinion. That initial contact kind of up with the hip and everything right there. And again, we give ourselves a couple, 2-3 seconds. We see the heavy contact. We can still, now this one's going to be a little bit different because even though the previous clip was an attempt to play the ball, so if it was dog so, if that goal didn't get scored and it was dog so, we still have the caution and we still have the PK to give. Here we have something a little bit different because it's obviously a goal scoring opportunity, but the tackle itself is still reckless, that we don't have, we potentially have a dog so send off because this foul happens outside of the penalty area, but you have two routes to go. You could say spa and interfering with a promising attack, or you can say it's simply just a reckless challenge, and by coming out and jumping in the manner that she did so with disregard to the safety of her opponent, and therefore we have a reckless challenge and a cautionable offense, right? This I would deem as a jump at the attacker, and even though there's sort of that mutual kind of collision, I would still look at the goalkeeper as being kind of the initiator on that one to be able to go through and see that as a reckless challenge. All right, now this happened the other night for Charlotte's. I can't remember who they were playing, but so we see the defender and the attacker running at pace. All of these sequences, by the way, we have to start applying football understanding or game understanding where they're able to go through and we're able to kind of look at what's reasonably expected for this kind of play, because that's where we start to apply laws and have some understanding of where that range is going to live, right? So now this one is going to be a great no call. And even though there's contact, and even though it's in the penalty area, and even though it looks like it should be a penalty, there's a reason it's not. And that is because if you look at 12.2, every player has their right to space, and every player has their right to basically stay in the position that they're in, right? So here, even though the attacker is going to go through, they're both at pace. You're going to see the attackers change. Defender kept going, and then the attacker sort of turned into the defender, right? And then it looks bad because you see they're face to face, they're face on. This defender has nowhere to go or nothing to do with his hands here. So walk it loud. All right, so here, come through again. At pace. We now understand that there's not going to be a quick change of direction here. I mean, there could be a quick change of direction, but the defender has is going to continue on in the space that they're going. Right? Ball is cut back, and some people are going to say, oh, he's pulled him down. But realistically, nothing from the defender is showing me that he's intending to initiate contact on the attacker. In fact, the opposite is true. I see the attacker, in trying to cut the ball, the defender's there and tries to go through the defender and then ends up kind of taking the brunt of that contact. This is a collision. This isn't necessarily a foul because there's a collision and just because someone goes down in the penalty area. We have to look at how the contact occurs, and we have to look at the game understanding of the fact that they're running side by side and that one is going to suddenly change directions in a manner that maybe the defender doesn't expect but can't necessarily get out of the way. Being in the way is not the same as getting in the way. And that's part of that. So some people will say, oh, it's impeding. It's not impeding. He didn't move into his path. And that's where a lot of this stuff really starts to kind of take hold and starts to matter. Okay? This one here. Now, this one actually was shared by Tristan in the community here. And it's interesting. Obviously, there's a first one good save there. Then we have another one. Now, this is where it's going to happen. You see the goalkeeper diving down. He wins the ball, and then he kind of swipes through. Here, hang on. Let me see this. Wins the ball, and then swipes through and takes the player right there as he's going through, and he's almost basically grabbing that back leg or that plant leg, and that's where he pulls him down. Referee's in a fantastic. I can see why some people would be very confused by this as a penalty. I can see why it's been given, because that extra motion of that swipe through on that plant leg, kind of grabbing it and really bringing him down, to me, it makes sense. I can also sell this as a no call, in that this is just a natural consequence of the save, and the attacker's already in motion, the leg is already up, he's going to lose balance, and we have nothing there. This is one of those moments where your positioning is going to show you anything and everything that you need to know about the challenge, and that right, wrong, or indifferent, it does not matter. This is where you're on the field. If you make the decision, your whistle goes to your mouth, you point, you have those strong mechanics, and you stick with the call. Don't second guess yourself. Don't waffle. Don't do anything. You see all the defenders are getting up in his face. Keeper's waving his finger at him, so forth, right? Move on. We have the PK. We're ready to go. All right. And here's actually the slow-mo of it. Not too very fun of it. All right, now this one is going to be a pretty obvious jump at, and let's just have a look. All right, so here, let's talk about the first one real quick. Right, ball is played long. The attacker's going to try and chest it down. Now, the arm is not up in the contact at all, so that's actually a very good thing. However, where does he start his jump from? He's easily, 2 steps off, and he's jumping at the opponent. This is going to be a foul 99% of the time, because there is no way he's able to play that ball without necessarily fearing the defender or the attacking player. Now, he does win the ball, but again, this is one of those where he wins the ball only because he's completely wiping out the opponent from being able to fairly challenge that ball in the first place. So there's nothing else here. Now, you see that the white player has slipped, right? And the other player, I don't want to guess as to what that jersey color is, but the darker jersey chests the ball down, and then he kind of turns around and tries to run. And this is one of those things of getting in the way versus being in the way. Two very different things. And this one here is going to tell you everything you need to know about it. White is slipped. He's trying to get back up. The attacker turns, and he's just there. There's nothing there. It's just a simple collision. Now, what he does next, we have where again he's got the arm kind of coming around him and almost kind of chucks him out of the way. I think there's a pretty obvious so again, we have that kind of arm motion, pull, push, foul. Easy. Let's go on to the next one here. Now, this one is going to be a strike or attempt to strike. And I dislike corner kicks for this reason. Because you get players where you can see that, you know, the defender and the goalkeeper are kind of there together, and you see that, you know, the attacker is just standing there initially. He's not really doing anything, but he kind of this defender forces his way in, right? And now he's leaning in. He's got his arm wrapped around him. He's being a pest. And for me as a referee, I'm blowing my whistle and I'm getting ahead of this because I know what's going to happen. And sure enough, it does. So here, he's just trying the attacker is just trying to get back into the position he was in, and this defender has pushed him out of. Now, what happens here is he's looking around. He's looking for the referee to help and to intervene here, because this is something that, you know, you have that your arm wrapped around an opponent like this. Ball's not even in play yet. This is already out of bounds in my opinion. But if we don't intervene, something bad happens. Restart it.
Yeah.
So we see that sharp, you know, again, yellow pushes him out. He's trying to back in. There's a lot of physical contact, and then the attacker decides to take it into his own hands, throws the elbow. It's an obvious strike to the head. This is a send-off. Now, if the ball is not in play, we don't change the restart. It's not a penalty kick. It's not a direct free kick coming out, excuse me. It's not going to be any of that. It is simply going to be that player sent off, and we resume with the corner kick. When you have these corners, it is critical to be in the position to be able to see where those problem areas are. So if I ever see an attacker on the goal line near the goalkeeper, that's where my focus is going. That's because that's going to be the biggest, that's going to be where that friction is going to be, and that's where you're going to have the most issues. All right. And now, last but not least, I found this one shortly before I started recording today. But this is where we have impeding with contact. Well, it's actually impeding that then becomes impeding with contact. So let's have a look. All right, and finally, we have this one. It's going to be impeding, and there's going to be some other misconduct here as well. But have a look, and we'll see what this looks like. Is that a shove? I mean, there's a pretty clear size differential, I think, here, where that little contact into the back, kind of sends him flying. Really? No, I don't think so. But then he not only that, he now not a handball here because he's supporting his weight and he's getting back up. I don't have a handball here. But we now have him trying to intervene, and that's the handball we have because he's no longer supporting himself. He's now trying to be annoying, a pest, whatever you want to say, and he's trying to disrupt the play. You could argue playing in a dangerous manner here because of what happened, but realistically, I see the handball first, so I'm going direct free kick coming in. And then he tries to hit head, so forth. When realistically, he's the one putting his head down. I struggle to see. I mean, maybe there's a brush on the head. Unless it's the ball. I think it's the head on the ball. I don't even see anything there. No handball, no handball. Now we're trying to commit an offense. That's the handball right there. And then he pretends like he's the victim. Cool. All right, so this was a little scattershot. It was a little all over the place, but we did see a number of these fouls here. Charges, jumps at, kicks, attempts to kick, tackles, strikes, trips, attempts to trip, that kind of thing, right? We kind of discussed a little bit about careless, reckless, excessive force, etc. And then we obviously saw, holds, we saw bites, we saw the headbutts, we saw, we didn't see throwing an object, but there's there's plenty out there that you will be able to see on your own. But I hope this working through and talking about the physicality of fouls, because calling fouls is not a simple thing, and it's because so many fouls look different, and there's so many different ways that physical contact can start to look like a foul when it's really not, or can not look like a foul when it really is. And it's really tough to discern. And the long story short is that, going back to the first video, so long as that range is set and you establish it and you're consistent with it, that's how the game gets called, and you're going to be okay. But understanding what is a foul versus what isn't a foul, especially when you have, the ball being won first or played first, and you have what looks like a collision, but there's heavy contact and so forth. That's where it really starts to become a much more nuanced approach, and we start to look at things a little bit differently. So with that, I think it's a good place to wrap up here. This video is going to be pretty long, one of my longest as far as that goes, but I feel like it's really valuable. As you go through and you watch these, look at how these decisions get made. Look at how we judge this contact. Look at how the players are reacting. All of this is going to start to matter. And when it comes time, I think with a lot of practice and a lot of patience and some more games under your belt, the more you're going to be able to go ahead and look at these and really nail down kind of what is and what isn't a foul, especially from game to game, from level to level, whether you're reffing regional experience kind of stuff, or if you're coming back and looking at something that is, say, more, under 10 youth games, right? If you guys have questions, if you guys disagree, I'm all for disagreement on these, because I think that there are some that were borderline that I would consider calling. And I can also see why some people might not make that call, right? So look at these. Let me know what you guys think. If this is useful for you, I'd love to be able to continue putting together these kinds of videos and really talking through what I'm seeing as far as the fouls go and so forth. So with that, I will let you guys get back to your day. Enjoy. I hope you guys have a great rest of your week. Have a great one.